The broken link in Masonic kings and princes of Britain. In 1714, George I established the House of Hanover. This is the period when the Premier Grand Lodge was established. He was followed by George II, who had one sister. On his death, George III became king. He had 7 brothers and sisters, one of whom was Prince Frederick. Prince Frederick was the first noble or royal Mason. He wasn't a Grand Master, he was a Mason. He was initiated and passed and probably raised, but we're not sure about that, by John de Sagoudier in 1737. He died in 1751, aged 44. He was the heir apparent to George III, but as he died early, George IV became the, I think it's called heir assumptive. Was it presumptive? Yes. When George IV was Prince of Wales, he became the first Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of England in 1792. He had 14 other brothers and sisters, and in 1813, when the United Grand Lodge of England was established, 2 of his siblings, Prince Augustus Frederick, who was the Duke of Sussex, he became, in place of the George IV, he became the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the Moderns, and another brother, His Royal Highness Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, was the Grand Master of the Ancients. I talk about this relationship between the 3 brothers in detail in the section called the Articles of Union, 3 brothers, in my book, Initiation by Light. George IV only had one child, who was Charlotte, and instead the throne went to a 3rd son of George III, William, and he was also a Freemason. William IV had 12 children. However, on his death, the throne went to Victoria, who was the daughter of a 4th son of George III. Precedence in England is an extremely complicated subject. On his death, on William's death, Victoria established the House of Windsor. She married Prince Albert of Saxe, Coburg, and Gotha, and he was not a Mason. To go back a bit, Prince Albert's father was Ernest I, sovereign Duke of Saxe, Coburg, and Gotha. So not a king, but he had sovereign powers over his lands. Prince Albert's elder brother, Ernest II, was a Mason. Albert and Victoria were first cousins. In the UK, marriage between first cousins is not an issue, and roughly 3% of all marriages are between first cousins. However, it is illegal in about half of the states in America. Albert died in 1861, And we have etchings of the time showing that Masons wore colorful clothes even in the 1830s. So perhaps the move to Masons wearing black clothes was in respect to Queen Victoria mourning the death of her husband. Why didn't Albert join Freemasonry? 5 of his predecessors, though not in his family, not in his side, but Victoria's side, were all Freemasons. And I think this is probably the issue because he came from a German royal house. In the Freemasons Monthly Magazine of 1853, it states, Prince Albert, and as the order may entertain hopes that the young and promising prince, when of sufficiently ripe age, at the time Prince Albert was 34, he will tread in the steps of his royal and ducal ancestry and join and patronize our order. However, in the book, Queen Victoria's Other World by Peter Underwood, it states Prince Albert was not a Freemason, and one of Queen Victoria's letters mentioned that he actually disliked Freemasonry. So what has happened since then? As I mentioned earlier, Queen Victoria's father, William IV, was a Mason, and Queen Victoria's oldest son, Edward VII, was one of 9 children, and he became Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England. However, Edward's son, George V, was not a Mason, neither was Edward's grandson, King Edward VIII, who famously abdicated after 1 year. However, King George VI was a Mason. He was the second son of the previous king. In modern times, King George VI's daughter, Elizabeth II, she married Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, who is a Mason, though it's understood that he's not active in Blue Masonry, though he is active in the fraternity of the Royal Ark Mariner, which has been under the jurisdiction of the Grand Lodge of Master Masons since 1871. In England, the current Grand Master is Prince Michael of Kent, a first cousin of Elizabeth, and the current Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge is Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, also first cousin to Elizabeth. In 2017, United Grand Lodge celebrated its 300th anniversary. Prince Charles is not a Mason, nor are his children Princes William and Harry. So a total of 6 kings of Britain and 1 consort have been Masons, and only 3 have not. The current monarchy shows no inkling of joining Freemasonry, and in the future we may see another lost opportunity to promote the craft, with what the first 3 Grand Masters who wrote the Constitution, first constitutions in 1723, who wished to see a noble Grand Master at our head. Thank you.